My first job out of the Page program was, again, sort of a bit of luck. I really enjoyed getting to meet and talk to people. So I was curious about what happened on the soap operas in the daytime world, and sort of saw how they worked. And same thing with like the Tonight Show writers' room. I mean, dozens and dozens of places that I was able to sort of just have informational conversations and meetings with people, which was also like a great opportunity, which it's almost like a graduate program, the Page program, for people who are particularly interested in the field. Sometimes if an assistant took a week off, instead of hiring a temp, executives would ask pages to work that desk for a week or two. So that gave you also exposure to working and seeing what it's like to work on a desk. So that happened to me once in the late night department, where I'd never like worked a desk before. So I was incredibly nervous answering the phone, not wanting to make a mistake. The person who was in charge of late night at NBC was a man named Rick Ludwin, and he passed away a few years ago, sadly. But he was just an encyclopedia of late night and television knowledge, and I just didn't want to disappoint him. So I said very little during that 1 week that I was there. And he must have found that charming, because he was always very nice to me in the hallways after that week, and always remembered my name. I don't know, he saw something. A few months after that, I did have an assignment. I was working in a different area at NBC, but I had to call Rick's office. There was a Conan question that I didn't know the answer to, but I knew that Rick and his assistant Lisa, one of them, would know. So I call, and Lisa's like, again, got to realize this is 2000. Nobody had cell phones, that like no one texted then. So if you were out of sight, you were out of mind. And so I called her, and Lisa's like, I'm so glad you called. I'm moving to Hawaii, and if you want this job, I think you could get it. Rick liked it when you were here. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. In part because I was still deciding is a nice way to put it. Like, I still wasn't sure of whether or not it made sense to try to get a job in an office working in the executive wings, or to try to get a job on a show, which would be a more production driven job. I wasn't sure yet. I hadn't really had that much exposure to either one. In my head, even after almost having been at a Page for a year, I was just sort of in search of the idea that, could I have an impact on shows, how they get made, how they look, anything. What type of comedy might be on it? Is there a way that I can have an impact on the show? I love late night so much. And even like working as a Page on the Tonight Show, getting to see just what the day was like and how efficient it was, and how much joy it brought to people, how much joy it brought to the audience that was there, what it was like when they'd have a massive guest on, which at the time was like the biggest was NSYNC. When NSYNC was on, the year 2000, people camped out for days just to get tickets to a free talk show. Where they would play one song. And these were real moments that they were creating. And I thought, like, let's try this. Let's see what it's like to work in the late night office. And then I ended up spending the next, I think, 11 years there.